Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to talk about how to create this stylized texture here in Quixel Mixer. It's going to be a very quick and easy way how to do this. We're going to be using an alpha, but before that, remember the best way to support this channel is by leaving a like, leaving a comment for the YouTube algorithm, subscribe if you haven't, and ring that bell for notification. We also now have a Discord server that's going to be in the description below. And if you can, please also follow me on Twitter. All right, I've loaded a blank project for Quixel Mixer. And again, this is just the one with the default values. Mine comes with a 4K resolution. You can work in low resolution if you want to. I'm using a plane that is 2x2. So for this, we are going to be adding a solid layer. We're going to increase the threshold and we're going to add a mask stack. Now, if you're brand new to Quixel or if you just stumble upon this video, I'm going to leave a playlist with all the basics of Quixel Mixer that you need to know in order to follow along with this video. Now, for this mask stack, we're going to be using a map. The map is going to be an alpha that I already created in ZBrush, and it's going to be the base for a rock formation for this cliff material. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to add a map component. And I'm going to be using a custom image, and over here I'm going to add an image. I'm going to be leaving this image in the description below. It's going to be a link to my Gumroad. You can donate a little bit if you can. If not, then all I ask in return is that you leave a like and leave a comment for the YouTube algorithm, because that really helps me out. So moving on, I'm just going to click here. It's going to open a Windows browser and I'm going to look for my file. All right, now that my alpha is loaded, you can see it represented here on the canvas. We're seeing that there is a little bit of a bad shading around here. We're going to take care of that. So what I'm going to do in order to take care of this is actually add a blur, Gaussian blur, and I'm going to lower the strength to 0.03. The reason for this is a value that I find that takes care of that bad shading, but doesn't change the form of my rock over here. Now, after doing that, all I have to do is add a mask modifier called scatter. This is going to throw this alpha around, creating kind of like that cliffside material that we're looking for. So once I do that, as you can see, it actually just scattered around. It uses different and random values. That's why I like to leave it here in random. You can choose grid if you want to, but to be honest, I rather use the random values. So over here we can increase the density if we want more of these. We also decide the size range and the angle of it. Okay, so I'm going to play with these values a little bit until I get something that I'm happy with. All right, I think I'm happy with this one right here. And we can increase the density a little bit. And we can play with the brightness jitter. The brightness jitter, what it does is the same as you can see in the patterns. So it actually changed the brightness of our mask. If I go here, you can see it actually changed the colors. And by changing the colors, of course, it changes how much the displacement is happening. So I'm gonna go back over here. All right, now this is going to be the base for our displacement and our normal map. We're also going to be adding some color to it. And if we wanted to change the colors a little bit, so not the colors, but the values, we could add a brightness and contrast. And we could play with the contrast. Actually, let's do it in this mode so we can see what's going on. So we can make it not as bright, so we can see a little bit more of that surface of the rocks that are on top. And we can just play with the contrast just to adjust a little bit. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to start adding color, and adding color to this is going to be very easy. But before we start adding colors, let's have a look at, you know, kind of like a tiling version. And again, this is supposed to be for a big cliff, so it's going to be tiled accordingly. All right, now for the colors, we're just going to be adding another solid layer. For this one, we're going to be doing it from above, and we're going to do wrap to underlying. The reason why we're doing this is because this is just a color layer. We're not trying to get any hide information out of it. So what we're gonna do is we're actually going to change the color. And let's do something around here. Let's bring it over to this tone. So it's more of like a sandy kind of rock. And this is going to be our base color for our rocks. So we can change the bottom of it if you want to. All you have to do is come to the albedo and pick the same color. And we have the base all around it. Now, after this, we're just going to give it some life, give it some stylization. And we can do that pretty quickly by just adding a little bit of a breakup to the colors. So the first thing that I'm going to do is duplicate this. And actually, let's just name this first. I'm going to call this base. Then the second layer is going to be breakup. Just another color kind of to break up kind of like that base color. And we're going to do for this, let's do something a little bit lighter, kind of like a lighter brown with a lot more saturation. I'm just going to go all the way over here, apply. And again, you see that it already starts looking painterly, but we want to start using some masks and some noise to make it more interesting. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to add a purling noise, going to look at my mask, and for that I'm just going to diminish the frequency around here, change the amplitude a little bit, add some octaves to it, a little bit of linearity, and we go back over here, and you're going to see how this is affecting our rocks underneath. So you can diminish the amplitude if you wanted to make more diffuse, or if you wanted to make it come through a little bit more. I want it to be kind of like a subtle detail. We can also go here and play with the opacity of it. I'm going to leave it at 0.8. Now what I'm going to do, in order to stylize, one of the things you need to do if you want something to look painterly is you're basically painting the light onto your asset. Even though this is going to be an asset that's going to be lit within the scene, you also want to add a little bit of brush strokes of light in top of your texture. So for that, I'm just going to duplicate this layer again, and we're going to put it on top, and we're going to call it highlights. And this highlights, all we're going to do is go to the albedo, go up in value, maybe around here, and we're going to use a mask with curvature. So we go here and we select curvature. That's going to be selecting a curvature mask, and for that we're going to be, instead of default curve, we're going to be selecting edges only. All right, this is going to only highlight my edges. Let's see how that's looking. And as you can see, this already applied that painterly effect to it, because again, we're painting the edges and we're painting the light. When it comes to the edges of a rock, usually that is where you see a lot of light reflection. So look at what happens if we just turn that off. We actually lose that effect. Another thing that we could do is maybe make that a little bit lighter, just so it's a lot more apparent. And another thing that just came to mind is I should lighten up this base color just a little bit. And if you like, we could add a further breakup to this. So I'm actually going to duplicate this layer, going to put it on top, and I'm going to name it breakup 2. And I'm going to change this towards the blue a little bit more this way. Okay, for this I'm going to be adding a purling noise. And let's see about the frequency. I'm going to go down a little bit. Dial in the amplitude. Let's do the octaves. As you can see, this actually helps a lot. Let's change that linearity and diminish the frequency a little bit more. See how that's looking. And I'm going to be playing with the opacity. So again, it's just a little detail, and we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to probably diminish the opacity so it's not super apparent. It's just I want to have that kind of like dirt look on top of my stylized texture. Now, to make this a little bit more complex and interesting, I'm going to be adding a little bit of dirt on some of the edges of this texture. So for that, I'm actually going to duplicate this layer again, and I'm going to throw it all the way up here. We're going to call it dirt. And what we're going to do is we're going to select kind of like a brownish color, but something that's very saturated and apparent to see. That way we can tell what we're doing with our mask. So for that, we're going to obviously add a mask stack, and I'm going to play with another curvature. But instead of using edges like I use on the highlights, I'm going to be using the cavities only. So that's going to help me out define the edges of all of these. Now, if we go to our mask, we're going to see what's going on. But what I want to do here is actually adjust the levels a little bit. So this mask shows a little bit more throughout my texture. And if I go back to 1, you can see actually this dirt coming out. But right now it's too symmetrical. It's like the dirt, it's accumulating in absolutely every part of my texture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some purling noise. And this purling noise, I'm actually going to, let's go to number 9. And let's change this a little bit. I'm going to change the frequency just so it's not that harsh. Play with the amplitude. Maybe wiggle the seats around a little bit. Play with the octaves and the linearity. And what we're going to do is we are going to multiply this. Okay, and the reason why we did that is because now, as you can see, this actually breaks up how symmetrical and not symmetrical, but it was following everything, every single line. And when we're talking about dirt, the dirt doesn't accumulate in every single specific line. We can actually play with the seed, and you can see that changing in real time over here. We can also affect that frequency if you wanted to. But now that I've determined how I want my mask, now it's the time to change the color of this because I think it's too saturated. So I'm just going to go here and make sure that I'm looking at this and maybe take it to a little bit of less saturated color, like that. So it's just a subtle detail. It's not something that's going to catch the eye or anything like that. I'm actually going to diminish the frequency and leave it all the way that. Check my mask again. And we have some nice textures. I'm actually going to play with the opacity of this a little bit more because I want just a subtle effect. Alright, and as you can see, that was a quick and easy way to create a stylized textures. Now, all you have to do is make sure that you export this to your library if you wanted to use it in Unreal. Actually, when I do things with Mixer, I export them out myself through this. And I get the maps inside Unreal and I build my own material. But if you wanted to use the Unreal material, in your preference, your Mixer files need to be exactly into the same folders as your Megascans in Bridge. Otherwise, if you export it out to the library, it's not going to show up in Bridge. I do have a video on how to export things out of Mixer, so make sure you look at that. But always remember that your location needs to be the same as Bridge if you want to use that material as they come out of bridge, as if it was another mega skin. Alright everyone, that is it for this video. Just a quick and easy way to do a stylized texture here in Mixer. I'm going to be doing more of these, and just leave me in the comment section what other stylized textures you would like to see. I'm more than happy to create the base files in ZBrush for you and share it with you. Please make sure you sign up to our Discord, follow me on Twitter. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.